Welcome to the Mada Hugh Show. I'm Hugh.
I'm Mada, and for today's episode, we have two special guests. And I would say,
I,
I
I,
myself, I'm a guest. I'm going to
you're,
switch to the role of guest
that's
from
right. You're
host.
going to be part of it. Actually, it's really fun. I'm going to be interviewing you as part of this wonderful trio that you've just joined. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to Trio Casals, featuring violinist Timothy Schwarz, cellist Ovidiu Marinescu. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, very
Good.
beautifully.
Good.
Practiced it this
I'm
morning.
practicing
He
it.
practiced this.
And pianist Madalina Dallina. Welcome, Trio Casals. So
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I guess it's kind of weird. I'm talking to Madalina as another guest here. So we'll see how this goes. But I think we need to start with you, Ovidiu, because you are the one that founded, or you were one of the founding members of this trio. Ovidiu, could you spend a few moments introducing yourself and talking about how Trio Casals got started?
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to finally be a part of this podcast that is becoming well known for its interest and musical depth. And the Trio Casals was formed in 1996
Wow.
with Sylvia Aranjan, violinist, and Jose Daniel Martinez, a Puerto Rican pianist, at the Casals Festival in '96. And we've been active since then, certainly in the United States and internationally as well. For example, some concerts at the Rachmaninoff Hall at the Moscow Conservatory, or in Oxford and London, etc. And so we've Sylvia Ramjan, the violinist, and I were part of the trio until 2020, when the pandemic
Uh-huh.
brought by some changes.
Sure.
And we've collaborated with a number of pianists, among them Kenneth Bolton, who was a local pianist. Now he teaches, I believe, in the Dakotas, and Karl Cranmer, and more recently Anna Kislitsina.
Wonderful. And tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you and Madalina have a common cultural touchstone.
Well, I was born in Bucharest, Romania, and I studied my undergraduate degree there. After graduation, I played for almost 3 years in an orchestra in Brasov. And I came to the United States in 1991 when the wall came down.
Hmm.
And I did a master's in Milwaukee and a doctorate at Temple University with Orlando Cole, which was a very rich time, very fruitful time for me. It was just a fantastic time to develop as a individual artist. And I'm very grateful both to the university where I received the doctoral fellowship, but also to Orlando Cole, who at that time, when I started studying with him, he was 87. And in my mind, I was so worried. What if he will retire? What if something happens to him? I studied with him for 3 years, and then he taught for another 7 or 8. I think he retired from Temple when he was maybe 97.
He was one of my first chamber music teachers. I've worked with Mr. Cole for many, many years and with many of his students too. So it's really cool that we have that in common. He was such a sweet, sweet person and such an incredible, rich legacy of, almost a century's worth of classical music to pass down, a heritage to pass down to you.
Absolutely, yeah. And more than that, from him, I learned what modern teaching is, even though he was such a venerable musician. Because a lot of my teachers in the past would like to talk a lot, hear themselves sing and tell stories, or be involved in the personal part of life. So when I started working with him, I just played. I had 1 hour lesson, 55 minutes, I played the cello. And for at least a semester, I thought he didn't like me. I was very, I didn't know what, really, yeah, because he didn't ask me how I'm doing, didn't ask me what I'm eating for lunch. And really, he wanted to teach.
Yeah.
And he was playing the piano. He couldn't play the cello anymore. He would play the piano, accompanying beautifully. I remember work with him. First work that I studied with him was a sonata by Samuel Barber, which he
Mm,
premiered with Barber himself in New
yeah.
York, and they were colleagues in the first year at Curtis. So he really wanted to pass that on as his maybe heritage, and also Dvorak concerto, Elgar concerto, and so forth.
Wow. Fantastic. So, personnel changes. You know, you're still the founding member of the trio, and you reformed the trio rather recently. And let's switch over to Timothy Schwarz. And before I jump to Timothy, I want to ask you, Ovidiu, what was it in your mind? How did you find these other two members, Madalina and Timothy? What drew you to invite them to become part of this newly formed version of Trio Casals?
Well, chamber music is in many ways like a family, like a marriage, a professional marriage. So there are a lot of elements that need to be considered, right? String quartets are known for challenges of collaborating, right? At least we are only three, and so some important factors for me, and I gave it a lot of thought to as to with whom I would dream to collaborate. So number one was musicianship. Number two was a certain personal affinity,
So
and
my apologies. We had a little bit of a technical glitch. So number one, musicianship. Number two,
number one, musicianship,
mhm.
personal affinity. Number three, an interest in promoting the trio, and because making music is not only playing beautiful notes and phrases, but is also getting the word out there and making a life, bringing it to life.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely, geography was important because if we are to rehearse, I wouldn't want to drive 4 hours, or I wouldn't ask anybody to fly. So I think it was perfect because both Madalina and Tim are friends and colleagues. With Madalina more recently, but we have the Romanian background. We speak the same language. We have a lot of common friends. We all three have the Temple University connection. And but with Tim, I was trying to remember Tim when we collaborated first time. I think it's probably 1997, around that time. We played chamber music for that long. I can't even figure it out so quickly. And we played quintets and we played trios. So and recently we performed the Beethoven Triple Concerto in Montana. Unfortunately, Madalina was not a member. Well, we didn't have Trio Casals formed at that time, but I wish, Madalina, that we could have kidnapped you and flown you to
One day,
Montana.
one day, one day.
You need my permission to kidnap my wife, but
Well,
okay.
in Romania, we don't take
Permission
permission. We
granted.
just kidnap people,
Okay. Oh,
musicians.
this is a Romanian thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I give you my Romanian blessing. Wonderful. So just to let everybody else know, you are right now on the faculty at Westchester University. Is that correct, Ovidiu? You're teaching
Yeah,
cello.
that's correct.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful.
I'm teaching cello, and I'm teaching a lot of other things. Modern teaching in today's world requires versatility. As a matter of fact, one advice that I give sometimes to young musicians is versatility is one key element. My job at Westchester is due to the fact that I could conduct and I could play the cello. So my initial appointment was as orchestra conductor and conducting
Wow.
instructor, and then cello professor. And then I think after about 8 years, it became more focused onto cello and other string areas. So elementary orchestra, beginning violin, beginning viola,
Wow.
some Janet classes. It's very diverse and in many ways rewarding. Intense, very intense. This past semester I had 7 classes. The semester before 8 classes plus the cello studio. But it's also incredibly diverse and rewarding.
That's incredible. Let's switch the focus over to Timothy Schwarz. And Tim, is it okay if I call you Tim, or would you prefer to be called as
Please.
Timothy?
Tim is great. Yeah.
Tim, again, thank you so much for taking time to help us understand a little bit more about this new version of Trio Casals. So, Tim, let's spend a few moments and get your background. Where did you study? What are you doing now? And yeah, just let me start with that.
Sure. So I'm actually from Philadelphia, the suburbs, and I believe we actually competed together in high school at the 17 magazine competition.
Oh, you're kidding?
Uh,
Yes,
yes,
that's what it was. Oh my goodness! Do you remember?
Yes.
We have some horrible stories. This was with the Ford, right? 17 magazine, Ford,
Yep.
and we were. I don't know about you. Maybe you were the better behaved ones, but I know I was one of the bad boys. We started throwing toilet paper out the hotel window. Were
Yes.
you?
I remember that
I
very
wish
well.
I never knew
Yes.
that. Oh my gosh.
We created such a mess. And then, you remember that time we were at the dinner table and we started playing the musical glasses and just annoying the hotel staff? Did you do that
Yep.
too? Oh boy.
I remember all that very, very well. Yes. It's so. Anyway,
That's
it's
where
good to
we
see
know
you
each other.
after
Oh no, these terrible
just a few
memories.
years ago, right? Yeah. Right.
That was so neat. Yeah, so that's how we know each other. How cool.
Yes, exactly. So since then, so I actually did my undergraduate at Cincinnati with Dorothy DeLay. It was
Oh wow.
just a golden age. I was one of the Starling scholarships, so she would fly down like every other week and teach about four or five of us, which was just great.
That's
And I don't know if you know, yeah, I don't know if you know the pianist Sandra Rivers. She
yes.
was, yeah, so she would also fly down and play all the lessons and all of that. And she eventually became a full-time collaborative pianist at Cincinnati. It's still there, and her and I became friends after that. And so then after Cincinnati, I went to Peabody and studied with Sylvia Rosenberg,
Hmm.
and then did some touring and a little bit of competitions, but eventually got a one-year position at University of Delaware, and that was sort of the big light bulb moment where I said, "Wow, I
Mm.
really want to be a college professor." So
Mm.
that's when I went back to Temple and got my DMA, and I was hearing a video talk about Orlando Cole with such fondness, and of course I remember him very, very well, even though I never like coached with him or anything. But I did study with Helen Qualwasser, who was sort
Sure.
of my Orlando Cole. So as a video was saying, Helen Qualwasser, if I was playing something by Rachmaninoff, she said, "Oh, I remember having dinner with him when I was
Wow.
15 or 16, and she was friends with Stravinsky, and I mean, just so many stories." And ironically, Helen Qualwasser went to Juilliard with my aunt, again, long, long time ago, and she also taught my sister at Temple, who's much older than me. So there were, believe it or not, when she would assign me some music, I could pull out either my sister's music or my aunt's music or whatever, that had all of her fingerings on it. So she was the person I kind of wanted to become in terms of,
Mm.
a teacher and just her caring for her students. And, was at various different colleges, and now I teach and head this whole string area at Rowan University in New Jersey. So
Wow.
just love it. I mean, I only teach. I have a few viola students, mainly violin majors, and I lead a string ensemble, which is sort of a conductorless small ensemble. But like Ovidiu in jobs past, I've been the conductor and the theory teacher and the general music teacher and all sorts of things. But yeah, no, I really love what I do, and it also allows me to perform. In fact, as we're speaking, I'm actually in London, and I have some recitals and some master classes here this week. So as soon as this is done, I'm actually going to be rehearsing with my my British duo partner. We have a concert tomorrow and the next day. So
Oh, how
it's
cool.
yeah,
Cool.
it's a great, great life. I feel extremely lucky to be doing just what I love doing so much.
Wonderful. And last but not least, let's talk to Madalina, the new pianist for Trio Casals. Madalina, let's get your background in terms of maybe let's talk a little bit about, because of course we do our forehand piano duo, but you've had a lot of other chamber music experience and continue to have a lot of other chamber music experience. Maybe let's spend a few moments talking about that, about your chamber music background.
Well, I'm going to begin with the fact that I've always wanted to be part of a trio, like professionally, not just for a couple months, play through a piece and then, part ways and that's it. So I would say that being part of Trio Casals is a dream come true. Um, Over the years, I've had partnerships with violinists, with singers, and in the present time with my husband, which sounds weird still. But I mean, every chamber music marriage, like Ovidiu said before, is a challenge. and it doesn't only require to adjust to the other person, it also requires for yourself to challenge yourself and, you know, put out there everything that you can do best at that time and ask yourself, what can I do so that this marriage can work for a long time, of course. Um, and most of the, sometimes actually, and I'm speaking from experience with the forehand duo, sometimes it's really hard to overcome differences of opinion. But also keep in mind that we're playing the same instrument. So this is, I would say, is the hardest thing, right? Now we've had rehearsals. I mean, all three of us, Trio Casals, and my input, my impression was that we are actually getting along great. I don't know what you guys thought, but I love the vibe. I love that. First of all, we respect each other as fellow colleagues and musicians, and um, it's actually a great atmosphere to work in. I'm really grateful for your background, and I'm grateful that we are working together. So I hope this is gonna last for a long time.
So I'm going to shift gears with my next set of questions. I think I'd like to kind of take it a little bit as all of you are educators and have experience teaching and helping the next generation of musicians find their way, find their career. And as I'm hearing, there's, of course, one of the most important things about forming a trio or a band or any kind of group, we see this in pop music, we see this in classical music, how you get along, right? And I'm wondering, maybe go back to you, Ovidiu, if you're advising somebody, why form a trio and what would perhaps be your number one advice when there are conflicts? Because everybody's going to have a slightly
Yeah.
different opinion. How do you see yourself resolving those conflicts within this new trio?
Well, I think sometimes the biggest step is just to start. Just do it, right? Nike logo, just do it. That's really important. If we start talking about the challenges before we even started, then what's the point?
Mm,
Right? There are challenges in anything. Going to a bank, we have to wait in line. They don't have the right change. Going to somewhere, they are out of our favorite food or so. So how do we deal with those challenges? The mail doesn't arrive. The water. So the same challenges occur in making music. But I would say if we focus number one in the common goal, right, which is what um, uh, it has to start with an artistic goal, in my opinion. So the repertory for piano trio is incredible. We can name, I forget the exact number. I know all the piano trios by Beethoven, and I think there are about 10 of them. Right? We have Mozart, we have Brahms, we have Schubert, we have Shostakovich, we have just incredible repertory. And there is also new music. So there is more and more new music that is being composed. So there are wonderful opportunities in that direction, and that's the real reward. And then when we start with that, the dialogue is very easy. So even when we deal with artistic differences, well, it has to be a dialogue. Okay, fine. You want this faster. Okay, hats off to you. Let's do it faster now. And maybe next movement where I want faster. Let's if one person always win, that's not a good solution for communication. So giving, taking, dialogue, respecting, enjoying, considering different ideas, trying different things. That's what really keeps things fresh. And I would say that's the same advice that one can give about any type of relationship, whether it's marriage or working in an office.
sure.
Right.
Timothy, I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about what attracted you, because you've got a very busy concertizing teaching schedule, solo things, and of course all of your students that you work with traveling. What attracted you to the idea of forming this trio together with Ovidiu and Madalina?
I mean, it was really an invitation from a video. So, I mean, that as he said, we've known each other a very, very, very long time and performed quite a bit. Um, and it seemed like the right amount of performing and just rehearsing. And I know like a video has a similar job to me in that we're both, full-time faculty. So that was also very appealing. I think I've been in actually two ensembles. I've been in a string quartet, a Seraph string quartet, and I was in a clarinet trio for a while. And I always think when you do form these trios, they work best if the members have similar professional jobs. So like if they're all, say, in a full-time orchestra, or if they're all freelancers, or if they're all academics, it's just a little easier. We tend to have the same, basic schedules. We tend to have, things like that. So those things were very, very appealing to me. And I also really liked, our first concert is all music by a living composer, and that's something that's very important to me. So I do a lot of world premieres. I work a lot with living composers. The last two CDs I made were all living composers. So that was also like very appealing to me. I really like that process of giving birth to a piece, or putting your own stamp on something. So if you're playing something that has either never been played or at least not that much, to me that's really appealing.
It's an opportunity almost to give a definitive statement or definitive version, yeah, early on out of the gate. So that's really exciting. Madalina.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Madalina, switch to you, and I wanted to ask you, what are your aspirations? What attracted you? Of course, we've got our duo, but you also have your solo things. You're very busy. What attracted you to the idea of joining Ovidiu and Timothy for the Trio Casals?
I mean, first of all three of us have the temple background. I'm almost to the finish line. But the fact that, all three of us have teaching, have performing schedule, but the fact that we can perform contemporary music, we can have the chance to work with living composers. This is indeed a chance, because I wish personally, when we're going to play Beethoven Trio, I wish I could call up Beethoven and ask him, what did you want here? What were you thinking in that moment? Well, we can't, right? So having this chance to work, to premiere or to play contemporary works that have not been played so often, or modern works that have not been played so often, it's a chance for me. I think it's something extraordinary, and we can go up there and leave an impression and come up with fresh ideas.
Ovidiu, I want to switch back to you. The trio is starting off with a bang. Your first concert together is in no less than Carnegie Hall. How exciting. Tell us a little bit about the debut concert of this new version of Trio Casals.
This follows on a collaboration that I have had with Parma Recordings, an American recording company, since I believe 2010, and I have over 25 albums with them.
Oh, wow.
And one of the ideas that I brought to Parma was Parma is specialized in releasing new music by contemporary composers, not only, but that's one big focus of theirs, and presenting it, distributing it through Naxos. So an idea that I brought to Parma was, it would be lovely to hear these works in concert as well. Why don't we do recording and performance? And so with Trio Casals, we've had probably 7 or 8, the prior Trio Casals, of these recordings and performances at Weill Hall, at Carnegie Hall, a very successful program for composers, for the audience, and for us as musicians. And in this case, we are not recording the works in the studio. The performance will be recorded live on video. Wow. As a testimony to Mr. Vollrath as a composer and to us. So Karl Vollrath, the composer of 3 piano trios that will be performing in New York, wrote these works for us, for Trio Casals. And so this is, I think, a historical moment, definitely for the people involved in the event, but possibly beyond that. That's our responsibility as Tim, Madalina, and I. We don't want this to be a blip on the radar. Oh, let's start with the bang at Carnegie Hall and then you pull the curtain. Well, our mission is to make these works relevant that other groups will want to play them.
Yeah.
Timothy, I wanted to switch gears to you. It's just so interesting to flash back to both of us being 17 years old, and then suddenly here we are, and to see the mark that you're making in the world through what you're doing. What are some of the things that you would like to accomplish through this trio? I'm hearing a common passion for living the works of living composers, contemporary music, and Timothy, you're a champion of that as well. What are some other things that you're hoping to do through this particular medium of violin, cello, and piano?
It's a great question, and I think just to kind of play on that living composer thing just a little bit, another few seconds. It's really changed the way I play the traditional music as well. So, what I find fascinating about working with a composer is I might say, say, hey, this would work better with double stops, or this would, this it's so easy to do this, or maybe harmonics, and oh, that's a great idea. And I always say one of the either you might either say foolish or bravest things I ever did. I was doing the Beethoven Sixth Sonata for violin and piano. It's like probably the least done out of all six. And there's a variation movement, and there's this one variation with these very short chords. And no matter how fabulous the violin is, they always sound terrible. I've even Anne-Sophie Mutter, who executes them perfectly, it still doesn't sound good. And I was doing these with a pianist, and I said, these would just sound better pizzicato. And he was like, well, then just do them. And I was like, can you do that? Am I not going to get struck by lightning? And so I did. And I mean, who am I to say? I'm just Tim Schwarz, but to me, those four notes sounded much better pizzicato. So it's little things like that, that actually, I think, bring our own stamp to anything that we play. I think we get so used to dissecting every single dot and dash and what does this mean? And that is important. I'm not saying that's not important, but I think it's important that we fill those with who we are. So, like, one of the things I always tell my students, and that I truly believe, is that you can never recreate a moment exactly. So, yes, in this case, maybe we're premiering a piece, so there's obviously that to it. But even if we were playing a Beethoven trio, there's never a moment where it's the same people with the same audience at the same point in their life. So, yes, the trio might perform, and probably will perform, the same piece many, many times, but we'll be different people. Even if it's just the next day, we'll be slightly different people. And as I'm sure, we all can understand, the audience plays a huge role in that as well. So I'm really looking forward to just experiencing that very human connection with this trio. And since we do have such a educational bent, I mean, it's not something we've discussed, but I would be really surprised if we're not giving some sort of master classes at some point, or some sort of educational thing. I have such admiration for Ovidiu with just what he's done creatively to make music work as a business. I mean, that to me is just extraordinary. I mean, it's really, really inspirational to me just to see, like, wow, there's just so much that you can do that I think can really give a lot of hope and inspiration to young aspiring musicians that maybe didn't land that Philadelphia orchestra job upon graduating, which is, let's face it, most of us. So yeah, so those are things I really look forward to experiencing, with my fellow trio mates.
Kim, I'm going to jump in. I'm sorry, I really want to jump in because this is so important. Is not only in music, in life, is the daring to dream, right? And daring to dream and daring to go grab that dream, right? And what is that? It's like, oh, this person will never date me, right? So we never ask somebody, I can never start a business because I don't know It's just the market is full. I can never play this piece. I will never be a so. All these things are only barriers that we all put in front of ourselves. So if we dare to dream and go for it, that's the only chance we have to accomplish them. And you too, Tim and Madalina, right? I mean, Madalina, you came from Romania. We both we left everything behind.
Yeah,
Why? It's
literally.
insane. It's really insane. I knew nobody when I came to the States. How
Mm.
many
Same.
people did you know when you came
Same.
here?
I knew no one. I knew
Right?
absolutely
So
no
it's
one.
crazy.
It was
What was
crazy.
your dream? What was your dream, Madalina, when you came
Actually,
here?
um, the only thing that got me started and going was that I felt that I needed more than what I had received there and what I had in Romania, in Bucharest. Doesn't matter in terms of not just academic. Like I'm not talking about getting diplomas. Like I don't care about these things. I care about what can I do with myself. It was like a dead point, right? And it's crazy, right? Because you're alive. So how can you feel
Mm.
dead, right? It's a paradox. So I read somewhere, I don't recall, but probably it's like an old Chinese probably proverb. You can move on. You're not a tree, right? You're not stuck in the ground. You have the freedom to move on, right? To go someplace else. So that's exactly what it is. With that just little thing that I wanted something else without knowing anything. And then, like you said, it's crazy, right? You go to a place that it's so unknown, it's dark, without any guidance. You just follow your gut or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's
It's
really
beautiful.
nice.
Mm.
I mean, really, it's beautiful. And I see careers today, and I'm still sometimes a little jealous. I see careers are made based on money or connections, right? And it's okay, not all. But for me, knowing that my life and I'm a product of my own hands and brains, it's a satisfaction. My
Mm.
dad, daddy, mommy, they gave me whatever they had, right? But um, but in terms of my life, where I am now, right? I came with $40 in my pocket, and I remember having $10 to eat 1 week. I remember going to Wendy's. This is 1991, and they had one trip salad bar, $1.70, and you get a plastic bowl, and you fill it with what you can. And I would put breadsticks around it, and I would build the wall a lot higher. So I would walk from the salad bar with something
Smart.
like this.
Smart. Okay,
After
that's
a
smart.
week, they stopped me. Well, anyway, so to feel comfortable now, I have a car, I have a good cello, I have a good bow, I have a house. It's insanity. Anything can be done. That's true. The U.S. is America is still the land of all possibilities.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
How are you, Hugh? You tell us about your what do you think? I mean, you're only asking questions. Why don't we
Well,
turn the tables?
I'm just admiring so much the energy I'm feeling from this trio. I am so excited for all of you. I mean, I think I want to close off with maybe a final question for you, Ovidiu, from one entrepreneur to another. If you had the opportunity to walk into a conference where there are patrons and sponsors and businesses, maybe the NAM show, okay,
Mm.
for example, and you have a 30-second elevator ride to pitch Trio Casals, okay? You've heard this exercise before. In the business circle, we have, well, the 30-second elevator pitch. Tell me about your
Yeah.
business. Tell me about your product in 30 seconds or less. Why should I be interested? Okay, so I'm going to challenge you with the 30-second elevator pitch for Trio Casals. Give me a 30-second pitch on who you are, why it's interesting, and why I should, maybe as an investor, invest in your group, or as an audience member, why I should buy tickets and come to hear you play, or find you on online, or follow you, or become a fan. Give me that. Can you give me that 30-second pitch?
Sure. Three people united with great passion, with cutting edge repertory, with enthusiasm on stage, with real people being on stage. And we are going to wow the audiences and we are going to provide you with a real experience. Nothing is canned in what we do.
Mm.
Mm.
And what makes your trio, your piano trio, violin, cello, piano, what makes that unique among all the other bands and groups and ensembles out there?
Well, we are very versatile, but the music making in the moment is of the ultimate degree. What makes art? I mean, it's all beautiful, but you are going to get guaranteed
Hmm.
quality with full passion and enthusiasm. What do you
Fantastic.
think? I got to
Uh,
work on my pitch, maybe.
I think it's pretty good. Tim, do you have anything to add to that 30-second pitch?
I mean, the only thing I think I would add is that we have just decades and decades of not just musical experience, but life experience. I mean, when I hadn't heard that story, the Wendy story from a video, but I had not heard it in words, but I hear it in his playing. And
Mm.
so I think, we all have so much life history to bring. And I think while there's many, many, many wonderful musicians, a lot of times I think some people are afraid to really just show that,
Hmm.
to show that life experience. And that's one thing where I think I actually appreciate being older, because it's like I'm not as afraid to put that on the table,
Mm.
and to say, this is me and this is my life experience, and this is how you're going to hear it in the music. And I really feel that just even with the rehearsals we've had so far.
Fantastic. Madalina, do you want to give it a shot in
I think
terms of your?
that's the advice that I would give to 20-year-old myself. I mean, just to don't be afraid to get experience, because
Like 20, like last year yourself, right?
yeah, like last year. Mhm. Yeah, like don't be afraid to get out there. That's the only way. I mean, just do it. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it just takes one step. One step. That's the hardest thing to start with, and I would say it's the most important.
Ovidiu, Timothy, Madalina, I want to thank you so much for spending some time talking and introducing the new version of Trio Casals. I'm so excited for the upcoming concert, this concert coming up in
Oh, I'm
Carnegie
sorry.
Hall.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone mentioned the date of the concert.
Yes. When is the Carnegie Hall? Thank you. When is the Carnegie Hall Vile Hall concert date for Trio Casals, the new version of Trio Casals?
July 15, 8 p.m.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay.
July 15, Monday night, I believe.
We'll be sure to have links to the tickets so that you can get them ahead of time. Ovidiu, Timothy, thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And wow, that was pretty interesting. And it's pretty cool to kind of get to see you develop your other chamber music repertoire, if you will.
Repertoire, yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
be a
No,
lot of fun.
I remember back in Bucharest, there would be quite a number of trios, and some of them lasted throughout the years, some of them didn't.
Mhm.
But I was a little bit jealous. I was like, I want to be part of this. I want to, because it's like a family,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
of course, duo is also a family, but the more people, the more interesting it gets, and the
Sure.
repertoire is hard.
Mhm.
And I'm excited because in a few months I'm going to start working on a Brahms quintet, and
Mm.
that's actually number one on my to-do
But
list
that's
over
not
the
that's
years.
not with this trio. That's
Not
okay.
with the trio, but I'm saying
Mhm.
it's five people there,
Mhm.
and the repertoire is the work itself is so extraordinary.
Oh yeah.
So I would say I don't want to diminish the duo rep at all. I know it's hard, but I say that for me the utmost challenging works is for like trio, quartet, quintet, because again, it's more people to deal with,
Sure.
more energies to deal with.
And more musical perspectives to absorb and to
And it's
incorporate.
more intricate, musically speaking.
Sure.
It's more intricate.
Sure.
You add more parts and it gets more complicated.
I am so proud of you. And I'm so glad that this trio is happening. And I'm looking forward to seeing this all work and wishing you all the best with Trio
I
Casals.
will see you on July 15th.
I will see you.
Present. Yeah, we will see you. Yeah. Yeah.
So for the Mada Hugh Show, I'm Hugh.
I'm Mada, and don't forget to check the link for tickets. And we're going to have pretty soon, we're going to have news about website and updates on social media.
And more episodes.
And more episodes.
So stay tuned. Thanks so much. And we'll see you all next time.